Hey everyone. So this is going to be a bit different. Uh, as a lot of you may or may not know, originally what got me back into programming initially was Godot. That's been 3 to 4 years ago now. Originally, I was set out to kind of design some micro games like a platformer or a guessing game, a word game. Like I've made a few, and never completely finished them. The one that was to the most completion would probably be one called Idle Plants. Originally, it was going to be like a farm game slash idle game, but as I kept going, it became more of an idle game. But that's not here and now. I'm thinking about starting a new series that's going to be a long, slow burn called Long Projects. And what I want to do with this one is I was originally going to come back and make a hard coded fighting game. And then, as I was starting to make the very first stages of the skeleton, I was like, well, what if I want to add characters later? Quote unquote DLC. How do I inject a character? And I didn't like the extra steps that were required of possibly rebuilding the executable every time I wanted to add a new character. Didn't want to do that. And then I'd say about a week later, I thought, hey, there used to be an engine like this where you could just use a text editor and you could drop images in and you could make a fighting game character. What was it? That engine was Muted. You could drop in a character and you'd edit or drop in sprites and you'd edit your text file and you could fight with it. It was more of a fighting engine. It was a fighting game, but more of a fighting engine. And that's where I was like, I'm going to do that. And I've been struggling with it because I've never really used a true state machine. I've used signals, I've used, of course, variables like constants, but nothing that would load a blank dummy or puppet type file with all the information it needs. The animations, the collision, all that kind of stuff. Without further ado, to keep this moving along and hopefully not overtime myself, I'm going to go into scripts, and the first thing I will show you is my original idea of documentation. Remembering Mugen, I grabbed some base states, and then I started making documentation of how I'm going to start this, with states being the type of stance you'd be in, being standing, crouching, in air, being SCAL, and your move type, which would be your controller state or controlled state, idle, attack, getting hurt, physics, which would be environment or your, you know, what allows and doesn't allow your character to act. We had stand, crouch, and air. Stand being high friction for like walking and attacking, and then crouch being high friction again for crouching, attacking, blocking, just like standing in air, where we apply our velocity and our gravity for jump up, jump forward, jump back, and then none for uh, being like a custom special or super state. Like, does the character have a teleport? Does the character enter a state for an ultimate or a super? How fast do they move, or what's their velocity they need for this frame, that frame, the other frame? And then you apply all that. Also, along in move type with hurt, you'd have, of course, your hit stun, uh, super grab or super pause state, that kind of stuff. And then I started grabbing all kinds of state IDs. And then I figured out, wow, this really does not, this fits my style, but it does not. So I started peeling off of that style and I made ID documentation. I started doing it more in a more unified, like spreadsheet style. The ID for the state, the name of the state, the type of the state, the move type of the state, the physics of the state, and a small description. And then down in legend or flags, we have the same thing. S is standing, C is crouching, A is for air, I is for idle, neutral, and movable. A is attack for active hitboxes, and H is get hit, damage, and stun. See, a lot more spreadsheet style kind of setup. Now, with that out of the way, I'll go ahead before I show you any of the other stuff, a character's JSON file. Now, if we go up through here, this would be like editing the text file from Fusion, except instead of everything being in multiple files, it would just be in one big JSON file. Now, you'd also have your constants for walk speed, jump velocity, your jump forward velocity, and your gravity. So, say you're a bigger character, a smaller character, a more agile character, instead of having to find a way to like open up the executable, all your code is just going to be right in your character's JSON file. Now, when I release this, will I call the JSON something different? Probably. Probably like some kind of extension of whatever the game would be, like its acronym or something. But it'd still basically be a JSON file. Now, you're going to have your animations. You'll have your state number. 0 is idle. You'd have your type. S, move type I. Physics S. So standing, idle, standing. And then for files, inside your character named folder, you don't have to do it with big string numbers. I'm just pre-using Ken, which I do not use registered characters when it's done. I'm just using Ken right now for the skeleton. Right now I have a folder called idle, and it has only a few of the frames. Like I'm not using all the frames. We're just skeleton right now. So you do your folder slash whatever your name or your not your name, your number of your file is .png idle, your next number png idle, your next number png, or your folder, your number, your folder, your number, as long as it's sequential. Durations, we're using ticks instead of frames. That way, say somebody has a 120 hertz monitor and somebody else has a 60 hertz monitor, you're not going to have a difference in playback. So it's all tied to ticks in the engine. Offset is where you are in the world for standing on the match floor or the stage floor. Generally, this is still for everybody going to be 0, 0. And hurt boxes are your hit boxes where you can get hit from. You'd put one for each animation state or file state. Now, what I want to do is actually, if it's a state that really doesn't change, where you can enter one and then the engine will check and it'll just continually repeat the first one. But for now, you have to enter one for all states. Now, this one is the one where I was kind of where's that? We got crouching, crouching. Where's it at? There's one that has multiple, I think. Nope. I thought I was testing the singular hurtbox state, but I guess not. But with moves like air, here we have 50. Type A, move type I, physics A, files, jumping, and then we go all the way across. And I did start testing singles, so duration 6. The first frame will be 6, but the others will drop down to 5. Now, the reason for that is because I'm kind of dumb, and I made a small error in code, which I still need to fix, but I want to show people what this long-term project is. When I say long-term, it could be a year, it could be 2 years. I don't know. I want to get a full, well-done skeleton, because I still need to set up stages. I still need to set up interface. I still need to set up health, super ultra special meter. I don't know if I'm doing it like. Thank you, phone. Very awesome. Set it up like Marvel's Capcom, where you get 3 uh, meters. So it fills up 1, fills up 2, fills up max. Or if I have one big meter that's broken up into 3 sections. Don't know yet. Let's see. Anything else to really talk about on here? Oh, like a light punch. Here we go. For state 200, we have SAS. So standing, attack, standing. Have our light punches. We have our durations. We have our offsets, again, which is 0. And our hurt boxes, which again, with it being one size, it really shouldn't matter. And then the hit boxes. Null is when there's no damage box active. So during the start or the wind up, I have null. We have 2 frames where you can damage with a quick little jab, and then as you're drawing your fist back, null, null. Let's see, how much time do we got left? Not much. We're at 10 minutes. Okay. So here is our state machine. You can see it's not too awful long yet, and this is where I had one of my problems with jumping. I was working on the jump forward and jump back, and I had not entered my new state information for transitions. And in the transition, I was immediately, once I finished the flip, it would loop a couple of times, and then immediately try to go from the falling state to the standing state, so it would soft lock the uh, player as soon as it was done. Not cool. But yeah, this is where all the brains for the required states will be pretty much. Now, we'll allow players to enter their own state numbers for like supers and specials, but the super required brains are going to be in the state machine. Um, our loader, this is where information is being fed into it right now. Right now, I'm just using Godot's resource. Whenever it's released, it'll have a folder it looks for wherever the exe is. So it would be like, oh, I'm in the person's E drive. The fighter folder is in E. So I'm looking in, whatever E slash fighters slash this character. Here we have I'm sorry, oop, had a little hiccup there. Our animation data for our type, our move type physics, and are we in a super state? Because super state's going to have its own physics. Remember, it has none. Same as a special. It's going to get its own state. Our duration, our offset, our hitbox, and our hurtbox, all that logic. And yes, we are caching our individual frames as a texture. Uh, Much further on, maybe I'll find a way for maybe like a helper program to make a texture atlas. That way it's loading one big image instead of multiple files. Say this is done in a couple of years and people load like 6, 7 fighters in there. Imagine the strain it'll put on a system having to load all those individual frames. That's going to slow down the engine a lot because it's loading all those images. Okay, so we have loader. We'll go for the fighter now. Let's go back up to the top. And we'll have a bunch of basic information like the sprite, the state machine, the hitbox and hurtbox shape, our data variable, current state ID, our frame index ticks, facing right is true. Right now, my facing doesn't work because I don't have a dummy set up. So right now, walking forward and back and jumping forward and back is backwards pretty much. So I need to set up a dummy for better testing. Of course, you start with no power for your super moves, of course. Now, originally, I wasn't doing this, duplicating, and I found out if you load the same character, if you don't have duplicate shapes for your hit and hurt box, if one of the players like a mirror match happens and they do something, you affect their hit and hurt box. So I had to use duplicate. Here we have more physics. We have our constants with the velocity. We have animations. And see if there's anything else really interesting in here. Not really. Here's where null happens. And the main right now, I'm just force spawning Ken. We're force spawning our fighter. And that's about it, really. And then if I can just show you again, I'm just using this as my skeleton. And a lot of the frames are missing. So we got idle. Again, like 3 to 4 frames for idle. That should be walk forward, but again, there's no dummy. That should be walk back. As you can see down here, we're changing states as we're doing this. So crouch. I don't have a crouch idle. That'd be the idle crouch I'm still holding down. You let go. I don't have a come up from crouch. That would be jump back. That would be jump forward. Like I said, no dummy, so they're playing backwards. And we also have light punch. You can see where that box is turning red. That'd be activation. I have not used the text file to replace the hitbox. But yeah, that's kind of all I got for now. And this is going to be a long-term project, and I hope to see where this goes in the way future. Everybody, take it easy.